Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final day of RIA's Unlocking Innovation event, Lightweight and Low-Cost Railway. These events are the result of collaboration between Railway Industry Association, UKRRIN, and UKRAIL Research and Innovation Network, UKRRIN, and you will hear from all of them today. My name is Milda Manamoitite. I am the Senior Technical and Policy Manager at RIA, and I am chairing today's session. If you have been following this event all week, by now you would have met almost all of our technical and innovation team, apart from our technical and innovation executive, Hannah, who's been working behind the camera all this time, and you've been receiving emails from her. So I hope you have enjoyed the series of this week, and I would like to thank our former colleague, Richard Jones, who has put this week's program together, while transitioning from RIA to his new role at BCIMO, and you will hear from him later today. Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I hope you will be engaged with you going forward as a member. So before we start, I will go over some useful information. We have been recording the webinars, and you can find all of them on our YouTube channel. You have received the links to this week's recordings in your reminder email, which went out earlier this morning with your joining link. We're also uploading all of the presentations and links to the YouTube videos on the innovation community on our website, and either I or my colleague will pop this link to the community in the chat. There you will also find information from all of the previous Unlocking Innovation events, so there's a little bit of a Christmas bonus content for you. Okay, so as today is the last day of the webinars, we are expecting you to be warming up that mulled wine by the afternoon. We're hosting this event in the morning, and we'll have a short Zoom session networking afterwards if you want to join it and chat with some of our speakers. So today we are going to talk about advances in tram systems, and we have some great presenters and interesting topics from organizations including UKRAIL, University of Birmingham, and Black Country Innovation Manufacturing Organization, followed by 2 5-minute elevator pitches designed to share some really great ideas so that everyone taking part gets a wide view of what's going on and who's doing what. We will finish up with a panel Q&A. I will probably run this session slightly longer because we're running on a tight schedule today, but we will open the Zoom link afterwards as well. You can ask your questions in writing in the questions tab, and the speakers might be able to answer them in writing while some other speakers are talking. I think the formalities are now over. I would like to invite our first presenter. Let's hear from 2 of our speakers, Alex Dodds and Ian Ambrose from UKRAIL, and they will just share some interesting ideas about lessons learned and how to engage with them. So over to you, and I think you'll get your presentation just there, and I'll be back with you shortly.
Excellent, thank you. Ian, I think I'll let you start with introducing yourself, and then we'll run on to the presentation.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Alex. My name's Ian Ambrose. I now work for the Technical Authority in UKRAIL, and I'm the technical lead for Light-Rail. I've been involved with Light-Rail for a rather long time now, and I joined UKRAIL in 2007 to identify where light rail could help heavy rail, and we started the tram train project then along with Simon Coulthard, who you heard from earlier in the week, and I started it, so I've agreed I'm going to see it finished later this year. That's me.
Thanks, Ian. So my name's Alex Dodds. I'm the Light Rail Knowledge Manager for UKRAIL, working for Simon Coulthard, who some of you may have seen earlier on in the week. I was the Project Operations Interface Specialist on the Sheffield tram train project, which involved quite a lot of interfaces with a number of different disciplines. So obviously this was a fairly natural transition to start taking over the light rail learning and development side of things for this project. So moving quickly on, our presentation, obviously learning lessons from light rail innovation. We're hoping to present some examples of what we're doing so far, what we're hoping to do going forward, and also present a challenge to the industry as well. So we've got a lot to cover, so I'll skip straight on to our contents page. That is if our mouse controls work. Okay, I'm clicking, but nothing's happening, even accounting for the delay. Ah, there we go. Right. Okay then, so yes, just a summary of what we're going to look at today. Obviously, we've got various elements which tie into the overall kind of light rail innovation side of things from a heavy rail perspective, wheel profile, low height platforms, traction power, and obviously the remainder of the list you can probably read yourselves. Moving on to Ian's first slide. Again, there we go, quite an extended delay. Ian, if you'd like to carry on with your slide, I'll click through the text animations just so you've got a full spread of text for you there.
No problem. Thanks, Alex. Right, well, one of the most important factors that you find when interfacing between tramways and railways is the fact that the wheel profiles are not compatible because the grooved rail is too shallow to enable normal checking on most heavy rail networks. So we had to work on a compromise, and we worked closely with the University of Huddersfield Institute of Rail Research, and we came up with two things. We ended up with a stepped back-to-back on the wheel to enable checking on the tramway and on the railway, and to achieve checking on the railway, we went for the raised check rail solution. Other solutions are available, but that was the most cost-effective for the trial. And so I guess the challenge to the industry here is, can you come up with alternative ways of managing checking? Because the problem with the raised check rail is that compatibility with other rail vehicles, particularly things like wheel skates and snow plows, which we'll come on to a bit later. So that was a challenge. We solved it, but we think there could be better ways of doing it in the future, particularly as the raised check rail is 50 millimeters above the rail head. Could it be lower? Okay, Alex, move on.
Okay.
The other challenge was the fact that most of the tramways have low floor vehicles, therefore low platforms. So not only did we have to have a mixture of low and high level platforms on the heavy rail system, e.g. Rotherham Central, but we also had to make sure that the low level platform was RVAR compliant with the vehicle, and also lower sector gauge compliant with the other trains operating over the network, particularly freight trains. So that proved a challenge, which is quite feasible to do. One of the things we used gap fillers to overcome the stepping distance, but in future we would go for things like retractable steps on the vehicles, which the Welsh versions of the CityLink will have. The problem with the 915 platform is if the tram train gets stuck there, you've got rather a big jump to get in and out. So you have to be very aware that the doors can open and people could evacuate safely. Fortunately, we've not had to do it other than in test mode. So again, this is a design thing. It has to meet accessibility rules, and it has to meet gauging rules. And if you get the two right, the system works smoothly. And we're very pleased that the way the Sheffield has actually demonstrated that. Move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Right, Contraction Power was our third big, well, not our, it was our third big challenge, because this was the first time on Network Rail that we put in 750 volt DC overhead anywhere on the network, and we did it in such a way that the system was compatible for upgrading to 25 kV, because the Northern Power Rail challenge was there with us, that at some point the route might be upgraded, and that is still potentially the case. So you have 25 kV equipment with 750 volt overhead line and supply. And because it's DC, we also had to immunize the signaling against interference. And so we went through the full EMC and stray current management process and installed axle counters to overcome the potential problems. and all's well so far. The system has performed reasonably well, but the problem has been the traction power modelling has left us with probably an insufficiently powered substation to manage perturbation situations. So there is a risk that when things are going wrong, the system will trip. We're working on how we do that. So when designing future systems, getting your traction power right and the number of substations right to supply the need, particularly to make sure you've got sufficient excess to cope with perturbation. I would also say that if you were doing such a short distance again, you probably wouldn't even consider overhead, but some sort of self-powered operation like batteries or supercaps or something like that. So that's what we've got running, and it's as I say, it works okay with the limitation that I've identified, and that's something that we would advocate that future schemes really take good notice of. Okay, Alex, over to you.
Right, thank you, Ian. So my slides hopefully are going to cover more kind of items in the pipeline, so to speak, and examples of what we're currently looking at within Network Rail from a heavy rail perspective. The first real example from a kind of a tram train perspective and heavy rail development is the example of our house Letbarn over in Denmark, where you can see obviously some operational examples in the photographs here. What they've essentially done is created almost like a semi-signal light rail network within both the limits of the city centre, but also further out into the suburbs to create almost an interregional lightweight metro system. This is again, fantastic example and potentially an opportunity we'll be looking to develop in the UK for examples of railway reopenings, such as beaching reversals, or potentially other schemes where kind of low cost, lightweight innovation is required. In terms of signalling innovation, obviously the Aarhus system is partially signalled, again as you can see here, making it more akin to a kind of a metro hybrid system rather than a traditional line of sight tramway. The challenge in terms of innovation from a heavy rail perspective is attempting to get a signalling system which is both cost effective, simple to install, easy to use, and potentially compatible with existing heavy rail signalling installations. At the minute, suppliers are very limited. I'm only aware of one so far that provides a system called Fenlock, which I believe is from a company called Phoenix Rail Systems. The information I have is limited at the minute, but from what I understand, they're in the process of developing a SIL4, which is a signalling integrity level rated system, which will be suitable for I suppose mainline passenger operations, but somewhat I suppose de-scoped in terms of cost requirements based on the fact that you're using lightweight vehicles with more kind of proactive braking capability. So moving on, how do we manage the differentiation of a tramway from a railway? The public interface is a fairly important part of this whole scenario. Interestingly enough, in terms of development of hybrid approaches, the Isle of Man Council has been one of the most proactive actors in this field. You can see from the image in the top left, they've essentially developed their own crossing control system, which involves an innovative use of what are essentially car park toll barriers in effect, and traffic lights, and from that equipment they've essentially been able to create a level crossing system which is, you know, pretty much as good as their needs require, and could potentially be something for use in the kind of the hybrid light rail metro sphere that we've already talked about. In terms of level crossing innovation, obviously this technology is already available and utilised on the continent. On the bottom left, you can actually see an image of the GVB Snell tram in Amstelveen in the Netherlands. This is essentially a lightweight, semi-signal hybrid urban regional metro network, which utilizes a right-of-way down the center of the street, and obviously incorporates a number of pedestrian crossings, which utilize this simplified crossing technology, which works off LiDAR control systems, and you can obviously see the LiDAR box at the top here. Station interface is also extremely important as well. Here on the right-hand side, you can see an example of Rotherham Central Station. Low-level platforms were identified as a critical risk in terms of the Sheffield project, and it was identified that creating some sort of physical barrier as an anti-trespass mitigation was the best methodology to address trespass risk, as opposed to things like platform barriers or some sort of active installation along those lines. Customer information systems is another critical challenge. In the case of the Sheffield project, an image that we see top left, Supertram use a point-to-point head code reporting system, whilst on Network Rail infrastructure. However, on their own infrastructure, they're essentially in dark territory. They're working to a fixed timetable with no real-time information. Ideally, what we'd like to implement going forward is some sort of real-time reporting system, possibly using GPS data, or potentially other innovative software tapping into onboard systems, onboard tram-train vehicles. Tyne and Wear Metro is a good example, as you can see from the picture on the right-hand side. They're already partway there. They use a looped head code system, where essentially trains on an individual line of route with a route code will pick up a Network Rail head code when they enter our infrastructure, and then drop that back off when they head back onto their line of route, which is again a good system in terms of maintaining visibility of a single train on our network, not so good in terms of duplicating head codes in major stations. So there are issues there. So applications in heavy rail. A lot of you may have expressed surprise at the fact that Network Rail now has a light rail team. In fact, we do, and it's not just ceremonial. The light rail team is actually doing quite a lot of, I suppose, innovative work without blowing our own trumpet, to actually apply light rail concepts in the heavy rail environment. The images on the left-hand side are actually a digital simulation model of a project that we're proactively working on with the Highland Transportation Authority, HiTrans, called Skyfall, which covers the possibility of utilizing a shared road rail clearway on a lesser used, I suppose, Lochside Road up in the West Highlands of Scotland, in between a rock face and a loch where there's no room to expand. And the aim is to bring the roadway away from a dangerous rockfall area by integrating it seamlessly with the railway system. In terms of other innovation examples, the Sheffield project has had its own fair share of examples. We can see here on the diagram on the top right an example of the Parkgate turnback at the terminus of the Sheffield tram train system, and an item called Parkgate controls, which is essentially a simplified signalling arrangement utilizing stopboards to provide some form of stabling or layover area at the terminus of a light rail system. Critical to that being is that it's relatively cheap and requires a relatively minor intervention in order to achieve a significant amount of flexibility. In addition, staff safety at light rail interfaces has been quite a significant hot topic of late. Certainly for the Sheffield project implementation, it was crucial to have a robust safety system in place from the start. However, we're working with a lot of legacy systems on the National Rail network, for example, with London Underground, but obviously most critically Tyne and Wear Metro as well. So again, this is an example of the current Peel or Chords initiative, where we're looking at creating a shared access area where both heavy rail, Network Rail staff and light rail metro staff can kind of operate with impunity, utilizing their own safety standards and their own safety systems, but still maintain a safe working environment overall. So moving on to, I suppose, our joint slides in terms of a challenge to the industry. First of all, looking at hybrid modular signalling. At the minute, the market seems to be fairly limited, although I'm certainly happy to be proved wrong, and I would love other manufacturers to potentially get in contact and give us kind of their ideas and examples of what they've been doing to develop modular low-cost signalling for light rail and metro undertakings. Ian, I believe the modular stations item was yours.
Well, as we've said, there is a need to come up with a station that is compliant both for the tram and the train, and it has to be DDA compliant or RVAR because tram trains are exempt from interoperability. So PRM TSI doesn't officially apply, although it's actually virtually identical to RVAR. And you need a tighter level boarding access. So the design of that is key, and you need fixtures and fittings obviously work around that. And if you've got overhead, you've got to remember things like the drop zone. What's more important is actually getting the light rail traction power distribution systems, both for hybrid use, you know, getting the number of substations right, as I said, or going for self-powered. So if we're going for batteries particularly, we need battery systems that can, where you've got compatible charging systems across the network. We don't want lots of different types of charging system that tie you into a particular vehicle or particular system. We need compatibility so that we can manage, enable operators to operate their fleets more effectively, whether they're trams or trains or both. So the one you can see there is the Innovarail system, which uses conductor rails in the forefoot, but other options are available. But what we desperately need to do as part of our decarbonisation programme is to trial these systems out and make sure we get the right one that can be applied across our network, and that could be used with whether it's a train, a tram train, a tram, or a VLR vehicle. You know, it just needs compatibility. Move on, please.
Okay. Okay, so I think trespass management is, sorry, Ian. I think trespass management was
just carry on. I mean, carry on.
So the example that we gave of the Rotherham Central 6-foot fence, at the minute that's a very much a custom design that was fabricated to fit into a very limited clearance area over a track drain, which required a cantilevered structure, which vastly increased the cost per metre of installation. Going forward, we'd potentially be looking for development of modular designs for trespass mitigations, line side fencing, 6-foot fencing, egg boxes for track trespass, etc., to ensure that we actually minimise the cost per implementation per metre of infrastructure laid. In terms of the engagement, obviously we've had engagement with a number of parties. Obviously, Restoring Our Railways programme, we've been proactively engaged in looking at feasible options for a potential kind of heavy rail, light rail hybrid arrangement, and we've obviously been working directly with our light rail partners to support those where possible. We've also been working directly with the UK Tram Centre of Excellence and liaising with the UK Tram on a regular basis throughout. And obviously we've got the example of the Highland Transportation Authority and other stakeholders, a number of which we can't directly mention as of yet, given the early stages of the development process. But in addition, obviously looking at wheel skates, we mentioned wheel skates as an important example. What you can actually see here on the right hand side is a cross-sectional example of a wheel skate interfacing with a raised check rail. And obviously this was something that Ian touched on earlier on. Crucially, we're looking for innovation. How do we manage the wheel skate issue? The question is, do we increase the size of the wheels, or do we raise the wheel skate, or do we raise the equipment on the wheel skate? But again, that's more kind of a technical example. We do know that innovation does exist in other areas. This is an example of a lighter weight tram style wheel skate for use with raised check rails that's been developed by Manchester Metrolink, and obviously you can see here how the equipment has been moved up to actually increase the vertical clearance to clear the raised check rail. Ideally, we're looking for a cost-effective solution, if possible, because if we don't, then we're potentially looking at installing swing nose crossings at every piece of S&C on the route. So just moving on to, oh, I've gone too far forward. I can see Milda in the top right-hand corner, so I can see we're getting short on time. Just moving on to our final slide, just to say thank you very much to everybody for listening. Obviously questions, but I believe we're taking questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Ian
thanks,
and
Alex.
Thank you very much. So you can find their presentation with the contact details in the handout section. So if you can now switch off your cameras, please, and we will take the questions in the Q&A session. And I can see that you have, Alex, you have some questions assigned to you. So if you can look at those while other people are speaking. Now I'd like to invite Alex Burroughs, the face of UKRRIN, to talk about how to engage with UKRRIN. And hi, Alex, and it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Milda. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Apologies for anyone who might have been expecting my colleague Clive Roberts, by the way. You've got me instead, and there's not much we can do about that. But hopefully I will be able to give you a very brief but detailed explanation of UKRRIN for those of you who haven't heard about it, and how you can engage with us. So firstly, what is UKRRIN? It's the UKRAIL Research and Innovation Network, and it was founded at the start of 2018 in order to bring together a powerful collaboration between industry and academia, in order to accelerate, support, enable, facilitate innovation, but also, even more importantly, to facilitate much closer engagement at the fundamental research stage, and for industry to have much closer engagement through the process of research, development, innovation and implementation, and to really try and provide a step change in terms of the development and implementation of new technologies and products from research into market. And really, we've got 4 objectives that you can see on the slide there. So it's around really supporting and building UK capability. And I think it's really important to emphasise, here in the UK, we have very strong rail academic expertise and capability, also with very strong proximity to industry. Now, I would say that coming from the University of Birmingham, but of course, it's hugely important that this is actually built upon and exploited to its full potential. In tandem with that, we want to see that step change in investment in rail innovation. Of course, there's lots of talk around innovation. We want to actually see that turned into money, quite simply, and action. We want to increase rail productivity, and that's the real role for innovation, is actually making a difference, making real tangible improvements, rather than just saying we're innovating and doing some innovation thing. Actually real tangible benefits to industry and to customers from undertaking the process of innovation. And finally, we want to develop stronger strategic relationships, not just between industry and academia, but with SMEs across the broader and wider supply chains, and indeed across the wider transport sector as well. And UKRRIN, I think I can go into more detail in terms of how it's made up. Indeed, yes, the network is made up of 4 centres of excellence. So we have, in no particular order, he says, with digital systems at the top, led by the University of Birmingham. That digital systems obviously is a very broad category, and these 3 academic centres, digital systems, rolling stock infrastructure, are purposefully broad because we recognise it's not just around holding one capability in one place, but around trying to get that coalescing of expertise and capability across our university research group. So Birmingham is the host for digital. Huddersfield is the host for rolling stock, and a great number of you on this call will know Huddersfield well, and indeed Huddersfield, I'm sure, are on here as well. And infrastructure is led by the University of Southampton too, and you'll see there are a number of other university partners that fit within these centres of excellence. We also have a centre of excellence in testing, which is led by the Network Rail's RIDICs, Rail Innovation Development Centres at Tuxford and Old Dalby, but also include Quinton Rail Technology Centre and Transport for London, importantly. So that focus is very much around not just the fundamental research, but taking it through the development and innovation, including testing, trialling and validation. So here are the broader academic members. You can see there are a number of universities in each of the 3 academic centres of excellence there. So 15 universities in total. I should actually say from tomorrow, in fact, there'll be a 16th member, the University of Hull, their Transport and Logistics Institute, which a number of you, I'm sure will know, are joining our Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems. So that's the list, and these slides will be added on to all the other slides as well. So if you want that list, you're more than welcome to get it. Our industry partners are listed here, 13 founding members, plus 6 new members have joined, plus also our supporting members as well, who by their nature, where there are more public bodies, client bodies were not able to join the funding process, so we have to hold them as a supporting member. And really what I want to talk about to finish off, the first part around success. So what is success for UKRAIN and what is its relevance? And it's very much around building up that collaboration, those collaborative projects across industry academia. And you'll see a few things I've noted here, but those top 2 are particularly important, are around the framework agreements we have in place with both Network Rail for their Control Period 6 R&D, and also with HS2 Limited for their R&D activity as well. And this is a fundamental role for UKRAIN, is to bring together the capability with the customer in order to develop those collaborations and increase the volume and value of innovation activity taking place across the UK rail industry. That's the role of UKRAIN, and I'm really pleased that in the nearly 3 years we've been going, we're seeing real success in that front as well. I should also point out, this is University of Birmingham bias again, but because I'm speaking, I get to choose. You'll notice the hydrogen train there is also made a play. Again, a classic example of a UKRAIN project where our industrial partner Porterbrook wanted to develop the technology. They wanted it de-risked and accelerated, and a partnership with us at the University with our university in this occasion has helped to provide that lower risk, greater speed, greater reward results. And there are numerous other examples from all of our university partners. I can think of several from Huddersfield and Southampton, for example, that have also had that type of success, where partnering between industry and academia has lowered the risk being taken on and accelerated the development of technology towards markets. And it's a fantastic thing to achieve. And there'll be many more of those to come in 2021 and beyond. So my last slide, obviously, the title of this subject is around engaging with UKRAIN, and the first thing to say is 2020 didn't quite go to plan for us, as indeed with anyone else. We're developing a plan for 2021. Obviously, it's going to again be, as these RIA's successful webinar series has shown, there's great appetite for digital engagement, and we'll be emulating that through UKRAIN activity as well. But do come and make contact with us, either through the Centres of Excellence. Please make contact with RIA. RIA are a partner in UKRAIN, as are the RSSB. And both RIA and RSSB play key roles in helping to bring together and encourage and incentivize these kinds of collaborations, where when we form interesting new partnerships, we can actually far increase our chances of success, be that through leveraging funding that's available to academia for research, both fundamental research and applied research, or through things like Innovate UK funding pots for innovation in mid-TRL levels. So please do come and get in touch with us at any level. I think the very final slide I've got has an email, an RSSB have an email address. You can either contact them, contact RIA, contact me directly, and I'm pretty sure I'll share some details on the chat box after this. So thank you very much indeed. I hope that's been helpful, and I'll pass back to Milda.
Thank you very much, Alex. Always pleasure to hear from you. And we are very, very proud members of, founding members of UKRAIN. So I'll move on swiftly. On to Richard and Naomi. So you have heard about the activities from BCIMO from yesterday. So Richard and Naomi today will talk about how to engage with them and share their plans going forward. So over to you, Richard and Naomi.
Okay, thanks, Milda. Thanks for your kind words earlier. I must point out that when we started organising this, which is probably 6 months ago, I hadn't even heard of BCIMO. So anybody thinks I'm the most cunning man alive, I'm not. I wish I was, but I'm not. So good morning to our delegates. My name is Richard Jones and I'm the Business and Partnerships Manager of BCIMO. Together with my colleague Naomi Arblaster today, we're going to take you through our thinking on creating and supplying the VLR market. And please take note, the words are in that order because we have to create this market before we can supply it. And I should highlight here at the bottom of our slide, our funders, without whom absolutely none of this thinking is possible. So our journey. Okay. Just try to get my next slide. Hopefully it'll work this time. Right, our journey. I just want to quickly remind you of what our CEO, Nick Mallinson, said yesterday. Smaller cities and regional transport bodies are not systems integrators and they're not engineering organisations. So why should we ever think that they're best suited to delivering complex transport projects? What these customers want is to be able to buy a proven, off-the-shelf, low-risk system, and that just isn't really available today. We've heard a lot already today about the customized nature of solutions in this sector. So what we think is that non-availability of the solutions that people want to buy is, to put it very simply, a market failure. And as a result, we all of us, customers and suppliers together, we all lose out. The challenge we have as an industry is, how can we change this? Well, what we're building here at BCIMO is a national centre for VLR innovation. And not just innovation, but also development, system integration and proving. And this will open in phases from Q1 next year, when we'll have our first test track open. And if you choose to work with us, then this is the place and the team that you can work with to create this new industry. So let's look in a bit more detail at the markets we believe are actually out there. As suppliers, rightly, the first thing you want to know is, what's the market for VLR? And whilst we very clearly have more work to do, our initial view is that there are 6 markets split into 2 areas. Broadly, the upper area, markets which are suitable for the Revolution vehicle that Nick discussed yesterday, which is suitable for branch lines, and the lower 3 for the shuttle vehicle, which are largely urban systems. Now, the low-hanging fruit here is segregated systems, where we can innovate at a system level, whole system level. But we heard from Simon and from his colleagues again this morning from Network Rail earlier this week, telling us about their expertise in tram train. So mixed running has to be possible too. It's been achieved, so it has to be possible. So working from top to bottom down these 6 boxes, the top one, restoring your railway. Then we heard from Amanda Roper from DFT earlier in the week that they received 111 project applications to the £500 million Restoring a Railway Fund, ranging between reopening a single station to some much more substantial projects. 25 projects have already been funded for development, and we understand from Amanda that there are going to be more announced next year as well. New branch lines. With costs as low as £10 million per kilometre for VLR, there is the potential to have new lines which would not otherwise be feasible for conventional systems. Low price opens up the size of the market. Autonomous inspection and repair. As many of you will be aware, Network Rail and other European infrastructure managers have had a Shift to Rail funded programme running for several years now to develop autonomous rail inspection and repair machines. The VLR platform could be the ideal way to go to produce those systems and make them viable and make them low cost. And we, BCIMO, would really like to see those machines developed in the UK. We think there's a potential market for maybe 200 of those machines in the UK, and the global market beyond that is substantial. So I'm calling on Network Rail now, please work with us and let's realise the potential for British industry of the R&D work that's been done already. We can make it happen. Smaller cities. So we heard from Nicola Small at Coventry City Council this week that they're building a VLR system which is going to be rolled out from 2024, and they envisage their initial fleet as being 20 vehicles. Now, looking around, looking at expressions of interest and the way cities are, we think there are at least another 20 cities that desperately need a similar mass transit system and who could afford VLR at about 1/5 of the cost of heavy tram, where they can't afford a conventional tram system. That makes a market for perhaps 400 vehicles in the UK alone. Now, we've already had conversations with transport operators in France, in Ireland, Australia and New Zealand. We've been getting contacts from around the world this week during the conference. So it's no exaggeration to say that there's worldwide interest. New towns. We also heard from Ian Toll of Arnold White Estates on Tuesday about their plans to connect their new 4,500 home development near Leighton Buzzard to the mainline railway station using VLR. This is one of a number of developments around the UK that are looking at this as a way of providing the sort of zero emissions mobility, so we're talking about the battery powered vehicle here, that their customers want to see. It's literally not sustainable to be developing housing and business parks without these kinds of transport options. And finally, always the Cinderella, they say, freight. There's no reason why the type of vehicles we're talking about could not also provide local distribution of freight, such as parcels, an area where rail has missed out hugely. There's been enormous growth in parcel distribution, much of it missing rail completely. So put your hand up if you want more white vans blowing out diesel fumes in your street. I know I certainly don't. So I'll repeat, BCIMO is only 3 months old, and we haven't yet done the detailed analysis of this market that is absolutely needed. But we do have an envelope. And on the back of this, it tells us that the market could be worth £5 billion. And I hope that you agree with me that we should do everything we can in our power, excuse me, to capture this market for UK industry. So whoever you are, please work with us at VLR to make this happen here in the UK. Okay, our innovation ecosystem. We're not setting ourselves up as the organisation that's expecting to do all of this, to deliver all of it. Our approach is to work with the types of stakeholders shown here to build this new VLR environment. Our role is at the hub of this network, and it's in focusing everyone on developing the demand to create a viable market and build a supply chain to satisfy that market with systems and products that are affordable to buy and operate and proven to work together. We're taking a whole system, whole life cycle view of reducing the cost of implementing and operating VLR systems. If we all can get this right together, the prize is the creation of a whole new industry, which everyone, the public, transport operators, local and regional authorities, and you, the suppliers, will benefit from. So 3 months in, how are we getting on? Sorry, excuse me. So let's look at the diagram, start at the top and go clockwise. Regulators. We're already talking to the ORR and the Light Rail Safety and Standards Board. Establishing standards around VLR is absolutely vital as a part of building the industry. Research and technology organisations. Alex talked very fluently, it's his subject, about the research and technology organisations in UKRRIN. Well, we have to build a network of partners who can deliver the R&D that we will need to further this project. We don't intend to duplicate any of that. We have one RTO in contract already and a second in negotiation. And if you're an RTO, Alex, I hope you're listening. If you're an RTO that has something to bring, we're absolutely listening. Please talk to us. Transport operators. If you're thinking about developing a transport system in any of the categories mentioned, please get in touch and register your interest. We'll be forming what we call a community just for you. In fact, we're forming several communities, and my colleague Naomi will tell you about another one, the SME community, in a minute. Education. We'll work with partners to ensure that the availability of suitable skills is there to drive the market. Supply chain. Well, my colleague Naomi has been working really hard on this over the last few months, and she's going to tell you more about what she's been doing in a moment. Passengers. VLR is a passenger-centered system. So if you're a passenger organisation, we want to hear from you about what you would value as features in a VLR system. Give us a call. Funders. The total investment in the Innovation Centre, the 2 vehicle prototypes, and the work that's going on at Coventry to date is already more than £40 million, and it's a mixture of public and private money. So there's something going on here. There's a group of people already that are willing to fund this initiative because they believe in it. So if you're a potential funder and investor, please talk to us. We can certainly find you good places to invest in this environment. And government, well, clearly you can see from our existing funding that the relationship with local and central government is going pretty well. But we need to step up now to capture this market and deliver the maximum benefit for industry and society. We know, we've been doing our research, we know that others are working on this elsewhere in the world. So it's UK, get to this market first, or maybe miss it. So I'll repeat, look at this network. We're not intending to stand on anyone's toes. Excuse me. What we're doing creates an entirely new system, which addresses an entirely new market, which in turn creates a new industry. Where we need capabilities, and they already exist, we'll partner with the right organisations to provide those capabilities. Bear in mind, the railways we're talking about creating bring more passengers to the mainline railway network by getting closer to where people live and giving them an alternative to getting in their car, which is what we all want, isn't it? So, to sum up then, BCIMO is an incubator for a new industry and a unique facility where you can work in collaboration to develop vehicles, infrastructure, new concepts like the autonomy that Westfield talked about yesterday, with a goal of creating the offer that the market really wants. Thanks for your attention. Now I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Naomi. Naomi, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Okay, so hi, I'm Naomi. So my role is the SME Business Advisor for the BCIMO. And today I'm here to talk to you about how do we start to build what this supply chain community looks like, and how can you all, be part of that. Okay, so firstly, what does an active community actually look like? So the idea is for us to create a testbed environment where SMEs from all over can come along and develop and test their technologies to help influence and shape what this new emerging market might look like in the future. So I know yesterday Nick Mallison, our CEO, and Richard a little bit there on the test track, touched on the physical assets of the centre, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about how do we kind of kickstart and create this lively and dynamic culture. And this could be a mixture of using physical and digital means, but we want businesses to feel part of it and, are able to kind of make a difference. Okay, so how do we do this and how do we start to build, this community? So first of all, we are interested to hear from SMEs who require development partners for feasibility and prototyping. So this is more the lower end of the TRL level. So just to point out, this is not what we're about. We are more about the higher levels. However, we're interested to hear from you because we are working closely with partners and RTOs, so we can kind of facilitate them relationships to help you to de-risk your technologies, so then you are able to move higher up the TRL levels. So we're interested to hear from SMEs who have the proven technology, maybe in the automotive sector or so on, and are looking to kind of diversify and further adapt. So this is the centre's main kind of unique selling point in terms of, we do have a test track. So we're able to work with you to provide that relevant and operational environment. So kind of higher up TRL 6 to 7 to test your technologies in. Okay, another exciting area is that we're looking for SMEs who are looking for manufacturing partners. So as part of the wider regeneration package, local government in the Black Country have provided some additional support for Black Country companies to look at innovation as a way to become part of the VLR supply chain, so look to diversify. So we are already working really closely with business leaders in the area to help us kind of push this message out, so we can encourage more local businesses to take advantage of this opportunity that's going to be on their doorstep. So the companies are really interested to understand more about what the technologies will be, in order, for them to change their digital manufacturing processes and to work with you guys to upscale and provide that production, capabilities. So we really want to hear from people and kind of facilitate them relationships moving forward. So we're also looking for people who are interested in setting up new ventures in VLR. So the centre will have incubation space ready. The nice thing is at the moment we're exploring different ways to kind of support, you know, acceleration programs and so on. So we're keen to hear from you now to understand more about what type of support would be really valuable for you. And also, you know, we are interested in, you know, any SMEs who want to collaborate and access funding. So I do want to make it clear that we don't have funding ourselves. However, because we work on a hub and spoke kind of partnership model, we're able to kind of access all the different players in the, you know, wider eco-innovation system. And obviously, the bigger the community that we can build, the stronger and more varied relationships and collaborations we can pull together moving forward. Okay, so just on that one before I go quickly through the offer, you know, this is what we see as all the kind of different elements of building up this supply chain community. So we are ready for that market demand that Richard just spoke about. So, you know, when we create this kind of wider eco-innovation system, as long as we're working together and we all know the different parts, you know, we will be ready to, you know, supply to that demand. So that's the kind of vision moving forward. Okay, so just quickly then, so, you know, if you're part of our community, you know, at the moment, you know, it is all being developed, it is early stage, but, you know, you will be able to receive information and events, technical workshops, challenge programs, leadership and innovation, skills development and training, incubator, accelerator, and so on. Again, you know, you'll be able to access the unique test environment and the test tracks from early next year. So these will be for the more higher TRL trials and demonstration type projects. You know, again, you know, we're working already, you know, without the centre there, with the Black Country companies on ways how we can kind of get the message across and work together to develop their manufacturing processes, access to specialist R&D support for spoke partners, and support in accessing funding, building consortiums and writing bids for collaborative projects. And just on that kind of last bullet point, I would like to kind of give you a live example, a real case study that we've recently worked on without the physical infrastructure, and that was with Westfield. So you may have heard from Julian Turner yesterday, the CEO of Westfield, who's doing some really exciting work around this. So I'm not going to go into his project detail, but I just wanted to provide an example of how the BCIMO supported Julian. So because Julian is based in the Black Country, he was able to access some additional support, which was, you know, 12 hours of free support. So the way he utilised that support was to work with us so we could understand more about his business and where he was looking to go. And then from this, we were reviewing potential funding and finance mechanisms of how we could support that to grow. We then identified a specific funding call that absolutely matched, you know, what he needed to do higher up on the TRL levels. And so from that, we were able to develop a consortium, helping to facilitate development of this consortium. And so we made sure that all the partners involved were the right partners. We're also a key delivery partner within that project to help kind of facilitate the testing and demonstration phases of the project. When we helped coordinate, develop, you know, some of the bid writing and so on, and submitted the project proposal on behalf of the consortium. And it's, you know, it's interesting to say, you know, the wider consortium were not from the Black Country, so it was nice that they were able to utilise some of Julian's support to help kind of put a really good, strong quality bid in. So obviously subject to the bid outcome, and, you know, if it is successful, you know, Westfield's technology will then be demonstrated at the new Innovation Centre, and this is a way how we can encourage that market uptake and then achieve commercial exploitation, obviously, for Julian. So we really hope we get a good outcome from this, and, you know, everything runs nicely and it's nice and successful. And again, you know, this is what it's about. You know, it's a test centre, so people who are testing their technologies on there, you know, if they want to have them there to showcase so the market can come and have a look, you know, that is what it's all about. So really interesting stuff, and, you know, we're really excited to kind of move this forward. So just to kind of remind you, you know, we are still in launch phase. We've all been going just under 3 months, I think. So, you know, we're constantly reviewing the business plans that were originally done. You know, we want to make sure that we're giving value to the companies that we're working with. So we're really excited to hear your ideas. Last slide just kind of includes the people in the team at the moment. You know, you can get in touch with us, and yeah, just really excited to hear from you. So I hope that's enough information for now, and in the year it'll develop further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Naomi and Richard. You have a bunch of questions in the questions tab, so I can see other speakers are answering them as well. So have a look. If you can answer some in writing, please do. Okay, so we are now moving on to the elevator pitches, and our first elevator pitch is from Dr. Howard Parkinson. Howard, if you could pop your camera on and unmute yourself. Okay, I can see you're coming in. Fantastic, and it's over to you.
Okay, you said right click, okay. Okay, hi everybody. I've got 5 minutes, so I'll be fairly quick. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm going to talk to you about the tram safety and security project we've got going using 5G in the West Midlands. You can see our partners there. So West Midland 5G, Innovate UK, Vodafone, UKRRIN, West Midland Metro, Class 1 Systems. I'm a director at Digital Rail Limited. Okay, so we're putting 4 use cases on the tram. Basically, we're putting one on to reduce the risk of trap and drag incidents using the external cameras. We're going to have passenger counting, so you know how many people are on the tram and where they're placed. So this might help with social distancing and maybe some more potential worsening of the COVID risk, allowing further operations. We also are able to spot baggages that have been left on the tram that may be suspicious, and we can send alerts to members of staff to check them. We're also detecting people with additional needs to improve accessibility, so disabled people, cyclists, people with heavy luggage, people with trams. So I'll just give you a bit of background. We demonstrated this at Rail Live. That's the track and drag warning system. That's for the main line, but we're adapting it for tramways. There's Chris Grayling. He seemed very happy with it when he came to look at it. So that was demonstrated for the main line. We're adapting that for trams. Assistive technology. This has been deployed on Chippenham Station, so we can detect people coming onto the station who have additional needs. So people in wheelchairs, we can send them a message that assistance has been sought, and we can send an alert on a smartphone to a member of staff so they can go and meet and greet them, so that disabled people can use the tram the same as, or train, the train the same as anybody else. People with large luggage, we direct them to the lift. People with cycles, we direct them to the appropriate place. So that's already on Chippenham Station, and that's been approved for trial. Suspicious packages. This was sponsored by the Department for Defence, DASA, I think they're called. So we use exterior and interior and external cameras, so we can watch people get on the train. We associate a bag with the person. We track them in the carriage. Then if they then leave without the bag, we assume that's a suspicious package, or could be, and we send an alert to a member of staff. We tell them where the piece of luggage is, and then they can go and check it out. So that increases security. This is the solution. So we're putting it on the CAF tram that is used by Midland Metro Limited. We're using the existing MVR, existing cameras. We have got 4 GPUs, you can see down here, which do the machine learning and heavy lift. They've got neural networks in them, and they detect the objects and anomalies. This is the UKRRIN router, and then this is the 5G antenna. So if we detect something suspicious or a track and drag incident, we can send an alert as appropriate and the footage. And these are typical interior cameras from West Midland Metro, and this is from the exterior camera. So these are easily good enough for us to use. Okay, the sub's all been fully approved. These are some nice drawings that UKRRIN have done for us. These white boxes, these do the heavy lifting for the AI. This is the UKRRIN router, and this is the ancillary equipment. You can see it's placed in a locker halfway down the tram, and yeah, so it's good to go. We're going to trial it in the first half of next year. So if anybody wants to come and have a demo, you're very welcome. I'm sure we can get Midland Metro to agree. Okay, so to conclude, we're using the existing cameras, existing MVR. These cameras will now provide real value. They're not just passive. The cameras now are passive. They're only used for recording events. You're going to get real value out of your cameras. You're going to improve security. You're going to improve safety. You're going to improve access. They've been fully approved for use on board. It's a good value proposition for operators. It future-proofs your operations and can help you reduce cost if you so wish to. This is fast-evolving technology. We couldn't have even done this 2 or 3 years ago. And finally, it's relatively low-cost technology, and it's a moving feast. Okay, that's my pitch.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Howard. And you also have some questions coming in, so have a look at your questions tab. So moving on to Brian now, our last elevator pitch. Brian, if you could pop your camera on. And Howard, if you can switch yours off and mute yourself, and over to you, Brian.
Bye-bye.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Back. I'm going to present on behalf of the Innovarail. This is a presentation you've been waiting for. This has been a year, and it's the last presentation before Christmas, and also the end of this traumatic year, and one where we're going to talk about what is needed within the rail industry, one where we're going to have to see transformation to drive change, and it's what it's about delivering the future. This is actually about a journey that commenced almost 25 years ago, a vision of a railway for the developing world. However, this vision today is more valid than ever, and it helps deliver 5 of the UN's top sustainability goals. If we go back to 1997, our vision was indeed a railway for the developing world. A railway, excuse me, we're not moving on. Okay. It was based on pods, buses and trams, a railway without moving points, the eradication of junctions as we know them, the removal of all active and moving parts from the infrastructure, leaving the track formations and the rails only, moving all intelligence on board, with no reliance on external communication for safe running. In all, our objective was to make a railway fit for the developing world without compromising safety or function. So who are Innovarail? This is a question that you probably will ask. Innovarail is actually a repository of intellectual concepts and designs. It is an impassioned group that is growing and a team of professionals with an impressive track record in rail, with many winning awards and have solutions delivered. The team includes members of the science and engineering disciplines, from aerospace, mathematics, hydrology to renewable energy. Key to the success of Innovarail is the team's empowerment to think outside the box and to, most importantly, import technological advancements from other sectors. The picture on the next slide is what we have today. Western-orientated technology with a dependence on copper cables for power delivery, automation of point machines, crossings and signals, etc. It makes the infrastructure expensive with a capital E. It makes it complex. It makes it unreliable, encourages theft and outages. It also makes it very unsightly. After all, who wants this sort of clutter outside the window? It also makes it expensive to install and to service, and installed particularly on top of existing services. Key, it also stifles flexibility because it does separate road traffic and rail. Our model today is about multimodal. This is the phrase that underpins everything we talk about. We bring together for the first time road and rail on one system. We enable least cost routing, taking the best of road, taking the best of rail, enabling door to destination travel, on-demand driven service, where the train, the pod are one and can take to either road or rail or both, be it a pod or a string of pods to form a train. Further, our vision includes multi-purpose, where mixed passenger and cargo, including, for example, home shopping deliveries. Key to everything is the sharing of the same core technology and the infrastructure. How do we achieve this? Behind the scenes, we have probably invested over £1 million in terms of what's called unpaid sweat equity, which has now borne fruit with the granting of 2 patents, and there's others in the pipeline too. Key, we have a patented design that removes the need for point machines as part of the signalling and junction infrastructure. We have removed all the moving parts from the infrastructure, taking away cables, copper from the tracks. Additionally, we have patented a novel way of positioning the vehicle on the rails, removing the need for track circuits and axle counters and the likes. Further, we have techniques to optimize onboard power, manage route loading and journey times. These patents collectively enable seamless on-rail, on-road operation without mitigating safety. So what do we say when we talk about thinking big? We are talking about going worldwide, with the UK leading an initiative to change the world. For the first time, we believe we have one design that fits all, the West and the developing world, highways or guideways, and enables mixed running. We're changing also the ownership model too, merging private and public ownership, providing a seamless connectivity between rural and city locations. And we mentioned also going small. We want to overcome the need to relocate buried services, achieve a low carbon infrastructure, low noise, the use of tyres, for example, in urban locations, removing all that unsightly clutter. We want to also maximize utilization. Too often there's so much infrastructure left idle by the side of the roads, cars that aren't used. We want pods that can become trains, pods that become cars, pods that become light goods vehicles, pods that become energy stores, delivering lightweight infrastructure that enables the reopening of disused railways, including the beaching line reversals. In all, we have the ability to steer tight corners, therefore we can make backwards compatible solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor will soon be yours. We're interested in speaking to investors and fellow engineers who want to join us on this journey. We are ready to join your developments too and pilot schemes. To offer patents under license, Innovarail is prepared to become the system design authority for this concept. Thank you, Ria, for this opportunity, and to all the others on this call for listening. I now believe it's question time. Back to you, Milda.
Thank you very much, Brian. Don't go away. I would like to invite all of the speakers back to switch on their cameras and unmute themselves. While we wait, I have a few things to say. So our next Unlocking Innovation series will take place on 9 and 12 of February next year. So put those dates in your calendar, 9 and 12 of February. This will be a joint event, our first joint event with Rail Innovation Exhibition organized by Innovate UK, Knowledge Transport Network and Department for Transport. We will look at the theme of Railway of the Future, Building Back Better. So there will be a joint exhibition plus RIA's webinar sessions. And Innovate will be sending the booking page and link to the booking page very soon. Then, as promised, we will have a bit of a Q&A session. I'll run a bit over, maybe 10 minutes over, and then we will open a Zoom room if you want to just have an informal chat with the speakers. Okay, Hannah, I think you can stop sharing the screen now so we can see the speakers a bit in a bigger format, and we have a bunch of questions for you. And I can see some of you have been answering them in writing, which is great. I have one question that was personally quite interesting for me. It was about passenger experience. I think it was for Naomi. I don't know whether you've seen that question, Naomi. It was saying, how will what is happening to your facility? You were talking about the hardware is for Naomi and Richard. So how will that improve the passenger experience, the driver experience? So anybody who's having interaction with the system.
Okay, so certainly Naomi, the person who's asked the question, Darren Wilson, is a user experience specialist and is doing absolutely great work. My answer to Darren was that we're absolutely open to the current best practice and technology in terms of passenger interfaces. So we will have on the site 2 test halts or stations, if you like, one in front of the main building and one at the other end of the track. So we'll actually be able to try out different physical arrangements for a passenger interface with the vehicles. We'll be able to experiment with those, see what works and what doesn't work, run trials, see what people like and what they don't like. And then on the information exchange, I know Alex Dodds, for example, talked about the way you get, passenger information systems and so on. And we want that to be as lightweight and low cost as well as it possibly can. So maybe all or most of it is going to be based around mobile comms. We've got 5G on site, so we've been working with EE to see what the coverage is like. We're going to extend that through the tunnel. We've got the joy of an 800-meter tunnel in the middle of our track. So we're going to work to extend that 5G coverage to the tunnel as well. So we've got a really exciting environment to come and try user experience items. Is there anything you wanted to add, Naomi?
No, just what you said, Richard, actually, yeah.
Make sure
Very
you sign.
excited about the 5G covering in the tunnels. Finally, I can continue posting my Instagram posts while going through the tunnels, the important stuff. You've also seen that we have a new member joining us, Mariana. So she is a colleague of Howard. Hi, Mariana, and I will just direct the question to both of you then. Have you had any privacy concerns and regulations that you came up against your sort of video tracking and recognition software?
Milda, should say Marina is a colleague of Brian's, not Howard's.
That's
My
okay.
mistake. Thank you very much. Sorry,
so is that
the
to me
question
then?
is going to Howard.
Yeah, we've had to jump. Well, we've been getting video for a long time now from the mainline and from tram operators. We have to keep it on a secure server. We can't put it on. We can't post it on LinkedIn unless we occlude people's faces. So there's things like that. If we do a demo, people have to sign a form when they come to see the demo. They're not going to take pictures. So there's lots of hurdles to jump through. When we pick up footage from West Midland Metro, we have to sign documentation. In terms of our project with UKRRIN, we've got to use secure servers. We've got to make sure that the comms is secure. We've got to make it compliant against a couple of guidance documents and standards. So it's not trivial, but it's not insurmountable. And once you know what you're doing, it's not too bad.
Good to know. Okay, so I'll have a question to Ian, and I see that Alex Dodds has been answering a lot of your questions in writing. Thank you very much. So Ian, there's a long one for you. Wheel skates will present a significant redesign challenge as the vehicle to be rescued is likely to be close to gauge when raised. Raising it further with larger wheels will further reduce that gap. Many vehicles also have very little space between the wheels. They are close to or that at a lower gauge line already. So it's more of a statement than a question, but do you have any comment to that?
Well, on top of the comments I made back to Louise, as I said in the presentation, it is a challenge, and there's three ways to deal with it. One is to not need raised check rails at all, which at the moment there's only one expensive solution, but we're open to others. The next one is the check rail height that we've currently identified the optimum. Are there other examples, say on the continent, of a lower raised check rail that would reduce the clearance issues? And thirdly, if Manchester Metrolink can design one that works, then I think there's a template to make a start to look at the issues with. Yes, I agree that varying wheel sizes on heavy rail will make it a challenge, but again, isn't that what this is all about? So it's over to the industry really to see if you can come up with the answers. We're happy to talk through the issues and identify where the key problems are.
Fantastic, thank you. I have a question to, good thing, Mariana, you're raising your hand because I have a question for you.
Just
So
to put in to Ian. Ian, we have some thoughts on this, so we are quite happy to talk with you on this matter.
You can share your thoughts right now as well.
But basically,
we can either talk in the Zoom or you've got my contact details on the presentation. So
I'll link with you because we've got a lot of thoughts on this. Yeah.
That's what we like
Excellent.
to see.
We'll look forward to talking to you. Get Alex involved as well.
Okay, so a question to Brian and Mariana. Can you share a bit more about your technology? Is it already, is it a secret? Can you just share a bit more detail about what you're looking at?
So conceptually, I can share quite a lot. Conceptually, we have taken away everything off the rail. So we don't need signaling. We don't need control centers. We don't need anything that is moving or active, in other words, powered on the track. All we need is the track formation and the rails. On top of that, what we have is an extremely intelligent autonomous vehicle. It knows where it is. It does not rely on GPS, 5G, or any of those technologies that come and go. And one of the problems is all these things are changing and they're quite expensive. And because our original focus was on developing countries, we had to think about extremely cheap ways of doing things. And the best way of doing something cheap is to get rid of things that are not necessary and only to use what is necessary and that is there. So we use the wheel rail interface is our USB, where we know how to do quite a lot with the wheel rail interface and how to go from road to rail to light rail to heavy rail. Does that help? Yes.
Thank you. So Alex, you've been very good at answering all of your questions in writing. Do you want to pick up anything that stood out from you? Maybe a bit about the call for signaling solutions. That seems an interesting question. So tell us more about the call for signaling solutions and what TRL level you need them to be at.
Well, picking up on what I wrote in the...
Yes. I got confused. Continue.
Yeah, so picking up on the commentary in the questions section. So from a network rail perspective, we work predominantly with SIL levels, signaling integrity levels. So as it stands, SIL 3 is currently rated for depot environments, which is fit for movement of trains, but not fit for movement of loaded passenger trains. The next stage up is SIL 4, which is fit for all trains, loaded passengers, etc., which is normally the rating that you would find on all kind of mainline heavy rail applications. The only issue is with a lot of systems, even the kind of the lower cost modular ones in a heavy rail environment, SIL 4 is an awful lot more expensive than SIL 3, just on the basis of the redundancies and the margins required for braking and so on and so forth. Ideally, from a purely rail-based perspective, without kind of taking into account of the kind of rubber-tired kind of autonomous vehicles that we've looked at earlier in the week, a SIL 3 solution, we would potentially be looking at application to a light rail environment. Obviously, light rail vehicles such as tram trains, etc., have much better visibility overall than regular trains, quicker acceleration generally, and significantly improved braking. So if we're operating on a kind of a hybrid form of line of sight operation, but at slightly higher speeds, incorporating some form of signaling overlay, if the system were to fail, the mitigation could potentially be that obviously the driver just puts the emergency brake on or a set of track brakes or whatever and brings the train to a stand within a safe stop without requiring, a mile and a half or whatever, which a heavy rail train might. So that's the kind of the key areas of innovation that we're looking for within the rail context. But I do acknowledge, obviously, there are some, really significant innovations beyond the pure rail sphere that we could also incorporate as well.
Can I say something?
Go on.
Well, we do a lot of work assessing software and electronics against different SIL levels, and SILs can only be applied to electronic systems. And it's my experience that, for example, SIL 3 software and SIL 4 software are identical in terms of the development process. So there isn't really a big cost difference. There's a slight difference in EN 50129 between SIL 3 and SIL 4, but it's not a massive. The big jump is between SIL 2 and SIL 3.
Can I also say something? I mean, I've worked in sill levels all my life, and one of the things you do find is that it's cheaper ultimately to design something to sill 4. In terms of redundancy, it doesn't cost a lot because you're basically designing it perfectly. So when you do something for a sill 4 procedurally, you actually achieve a quicker, faster, cheaper product. Meaning
we don't find that's true. We find there's a massive step up in cost between sill 2 and sill 3. A massive. With sill 4, you're talking about functionality that needs the safety integrity to control flaps on aircraft. You know, sill 2 would be maybe controlling a door operation on a train. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, so Howard, the basic thing is that on sill 2 and sill 4, the component costs are higher, not the software. Software costs are higher.
I will invite you, Marianne and Howard, I will invite you to talk about this in the Zoom call.
I just need to say, if you've read 50128 and you look at the rigor of the development process for sill 4 versus sill 2, it's massive. Okay.
Okay, I will move on from this heated discussion. I will hopefully continue that in the Zoom call. Alex Burroughs, you are also very good at answering your questions in writing, but there is one of the questions that was interesting. It was about an SME engagement. So as an SME, you know, how can SMEs engage with UKRRIN, and what is the process there?
Thank you, Milda. Yes, so we obviously have major industry partners who have driven this forward in terms of being able to leverage significant amounts of funding that's beyond the scale of SMEs. But what we do a lot of is there are a lot of existing partnerships between universities and SMEs. And actually, I'd just point out Howard's a very good example in the relationship that he and his company have with the University of Lancaster, who are partners with us in Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems. So SMEs generally will have, hopefully, good relationships with a particular university. And what we're looking at developing is a powered by UKRRIN concept, where we can leverage further funding streams from Innovate UK, Department for Business, various other, including local enterprise partnerships, is actually a particularly strong area of funding in this particular case, where we can then provide support to SMEs, and this will generally be in terms of providing further technical support from within our faculties to enable them to develop their products, their solutions, and accelerate their route to market. So it's going to be very much around the individual relationship between SMEs and universities. And I think if we want specific example, or rather if you have specific requirements, then feel free to make contact as an SME, either with me directly, with RIA I'd recommend, because I know colleagues at RIA know the breadth of capabilities across the universities, and you can signpost those SMEs to the right contacts at the right universities, or else the RSSB as well. But there'll be more coming out next year, so please do take a look.
So I think what I'm going to do now, I will move this discussion to the Zoom so we can have a bit more lively debate with the attendees as well, because I see that all of the speakers are very good at answering their questions in writing. We will collate all of the questions and the answers from the whole week into one document and post it on our innovation community, so you can look at these answers as well and come back to them. And as I said, all the video recordings are there. So the link to your Zoom networking room is in the chat, or where you're just receiving all of the answers to the questions as well. And I'm just going to repost it real quick again, so it's just showing up as the latest information on your chat. There it is. My colleague Hannah will open the room now. You have also received this in your reminder emails from earlier this week, this link. So hopefully you can find it. Not all of the speakers will be able to join us, but if you want to continue talking about SILs, please go to the Zoom and do that. And I'll just, so you can do it now. I'll just keep this webinar open for a tiny bit more, so you have all time to transition from this webinar to the Zoom.
Thank you,
Milda.
Milda.
I'll see you there.
Good job.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Milda. We'll join the Zoom.
Thank you, Milda.
Yeah.
If any attendees on the call don't have the Zoom link, I can see that somebody doesn't have it, so I'll just send, here we go, I've just sent Malcolm, I've just sent a link to your, as an answer to your question.
Hi Ian, how you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Long time no see, eh?
Yeah, Barcelona.
So when you're joining the Zoom link, don't forget to mute yourself because we'll hear lots of echoes with two systems open. So Howard, Ian, and Mariana, you're joining the Zoom call? You need to click on that link. And then once you're in the Zoom, you just leave this webinar so I know that you're successfully moved to the other room.
Yes, Milda, I don't have a link either.
Who was that? Was that Brian?
Brian, yes.
Okay, Brian, I will send you in the chat.
Oh, in the chat.
Yeah.
It works in the chat, does it?
Yeah, I've just sent it in the chat. Have a look.
Can't see it.
I will send you as an email.
Yes, please, yes, because I had a little bit of problems with bandwidth suddenly.
It's okay. Howard, would you like the Zoom link as an email as well?
I'm just seeing if it works. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yes,
So I
probably
will close.
Oh no, it's letting me
Okay.
in. Oh, hang on, no, it's not.
I will close the webinar now, and Brian, I'll send the email to you shortly.
Oh, I haven't sent it. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.